I can feel it in my nose.
You getting her?
3 bullseyes.
You on that far one?
This one right here. Yeah. Try her out, Jeff.
What?
You have to try her out.
So 2 more.
Yep. I like.
Yeah, she's shooting good so far, huh? Not even broken yet, and she's holding her ground all right. Let's try the AccuBond. Is that what we got here?
Yeah, the AccuBond nozzler.
We're getting this bipod adapter screwed in. She kind of came undone on us. She loosened up, so we're gonna just torque her in kind of stiff like. That's not conducive to good consistent harmonics, but surprisingly we were still shooting all right. It could account for some of the deviation in the shot placement, I suppose. So approximately 1 minute of angle. Did our little box test. Here's our first one. Come over. This could account for that, so the scope might be doing fine. Do more testing to try it, and maybe do some 3-shot groups on the next one. But seems to be working pretty good.
That's when we started out, huh?
Yep. Alright, we got Bull Moose out here today. And we tried out his Armalite AR-30, 338 Lapua Magnum. And is this the, what is this, a 4-16 Vortex PST? First focal plane. Optic. And we're using the Remington 250 grain match bullets here. So, what were your overall shooting impressions of this rifle system? What were you expecting?
I was expecting it to be a little bit more, kick a little harder.
Sure.
You know, being a 338 and all, but it shot just nice.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad recoil-wise.
You could probably shoot all day with it.
Yeah, and as light as it is, it's not really that heavy compared to some of the other heavy target rifles. Yeah, the recoil wasn't even really that bad. I think a lot of it has to do with this thing right here. Now, this did increase the muzzle blast significantly, didn't it?
Yes.
Was that the most difficult part of this?
Yeah, probably. It was pretty loud. Shoots pretty loud.
Yeah. But fills your mouth with overpressure. That causes bubbles to come out of the little cracks of your eyes when you pull the trigger, right?
No, not that bad.
Cool, cool.
Overall, I'm impressed with this gun.
Yeah, satisfied? Yep. Real good for the money for sure. Stock seems to be relatively comfortable.
Yes.
Considering the design, and it's a V-block bedding chassis kind of setup. Got the octagonal receiver here. Really strong receiver. So I get from the other side here. And it comes with these tilted scope base as well, I believe, right?
Yep.
So it's you can get them in different tilt configurations. And this is the 2nd generation, I believe, Armalite AR-30s. The 1st generation, I'm not sure what how many different models they went through. But this one, it did seem like the action was improved as far as the finishing. Some of the early models seemed like they're kind of rough. And this one seemed like it was a lot smoother as far as your bolts going back and forth. It's just a lot more, your surfaces are polished. The other ones, the finishing on them was kind of rough. So you'd have to really lube them up or break them in to get them to be nice and smooth. But this one seemed actually pretty smooth. Also, On this generation rifle, we're looking at a solid composite peak cheese here, rather than they had like a metal one before, which I believe had a stick-on rubber cheek pad, which would kind of come off as the glue got bad. But this one is a lot better designed. And I'm sure there's other design improvements they've added since then. I'm not sure if the magazines are different. That was one thing that seemed a little goofy at first, is just getting used to the magazine. You want to go ahead and show us how the magazine comes out of there?
There's a button over here.
Okay.
Just drop her down.
Yep. And when you're inserting it, you got to make sure the back is straight in. Otherwise, the guy fights it in a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, if you try to rock it in at all, if it's not perfectly straight, it'll hang up a little bit.
Straight in.
Yep. So, yep. Okay. Got aluminum follower in there. Safety seemed good. The trigger is totally fine. It's just something a guy would get used to if you're used to more of a precision rifle trigger. The trigger does seem a little more stout than some of the other target rifles with a real nice hair trigger. So that's just something to be advised. I'm sure you could get the trigger worked on if you wanted to, but for a combat rifle, that might not be a bad deal, because you don't want to pull it on accident. You want to make sure you're ready when you go with it. Scope seemed to perform alright so far. We'll test it a little more to get the idea. We got her zeroed. You had a little bit of difficulty with the bipod adapter. You want to explain what happened there, or were you was I doing that? I don't remember. Okay. Yeah, I was doing the box test, and the bipod adapter underneath this hair slides in this rail underneath here, kind of a slidey rail back and forth, and there's just two screws that come up and tighten it up against in there, and it just kind of worked its way loose, and it kept sliding forward as I was shooting. I could have shifted the point of impact a tiny bit, but the bipod popped off when I was shooting. So if you get one of these setups, you're going to want to use Loctite and tighten that bugger in there good. You could even probably countersink once you decide where you want this mounted. You could probably make little holes in there to get those screws set in there real securely. But the accuracy was pretty adequate for was this your first box of ammo?
First box of ammo.
Yeah, so we didn't even really get a chance to do a full break-in on it. We just started shooting it, and we're using just standard Remington Express rifle ammo. And I don't know, what was the price on this stuff? Do you remember? Your sticker's gone.
It's $120, I think.
$120 for a box of 20. So this is something you're going to want to load for, obviously. But we're shooting, and these Remington loads actually do use the Lapua brass. So it's using Lapua brass, which is kind of nice because that's good brass. So don't just leave these laying around when you're done. You're going to be sorry, because $250 a piece, you know. Something you do want to load later on. But with this factory Remington ammo, we're getting consistent minute of angle out there. And we're shooting off a hard surface with a bipod, which is not the most conducive to the best precision due to vibratory inconsistencies bouncing off of cement with a bipod. So I think once we get her on sandbags or on soil, it'll perform a little better. But just for a day on the range, it worked really surprisingly well. Not even going through the break-in procedure, the establishing copper equilibrium. Yeah, seemed like a pretty good ammo for over-the-counter type stuff. You can see the firing pin strikes on there. Kind of towards the center on most of them. I believe these have a free-floating bolt head on them, right? Want to pull that bolt out of there for me?
Find the button. There it is.
Yeah, they have a free-floating bolt head on them. It kind of centers on round when you put it in. It's kind of salvage is kind of similar in some ways, so it's not totally solid. So you can there's a little bit of flex in there. So that's actually conducive to pretty good precision as well. Is it can evenly mate up against the back of the casing when you're going. And yeah. Any other commentary there, Bull Moose?
I love it.
Yep. Gonna stick with the PST here, you think?
I think so.
Yep, seemed like it worked pretty good actually. It seemed like it was tracking all right. So, and you got a chance to try it as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it was awesome. What
What were your impressions of it?
Loud.
Loud?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, a little bit of horsepower.
Yeah, I only
in the
shot
nostrils?
one shot, so it
Okay.
wasn't a good test, but
Yeah.
for me anyhow. But
Yeah.
one shot was fun.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Accuracy between the two loads was within a few inches, so
Yep.
good.
And you were shooting 225s, right?
Yeah, the AccuBond load.
Mhm. Yeah, and the 250s that Bull Moose is using here were right on with my hand-loaded 300s. I mean, real close, within like a quarter minute. So.
Wow.
Yep. So that should be a good crossover, and we'll build up some charge for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like a good value as far as these rifles go. So if you're looking for something, what did this thing cost? Do you remember? 16, 18?
I think it was 25.
Oh, it was 25. Okay, that was during the panic season, a little bit.
Panic season.
Yep.
Big
So-
panic season.
So it comes with everything you'd ever really need. It comes with the muzzle brake. The factory barrel is totally fine. It has this aluminum chassis type stock. It comes with the bipod adapter that came with it, right? And then you
Yep.
put on a Harris. It comes with the scope base and a magazine. It's a 5-round magazine.
Yep.
Cool, man. We'll take it out there and do some long-range target interdiction soon.
Yeah, we'll do some more shooting.
All right, let's get out of here.